Welcome to the lecture on setting. This shouldn't take very long. Don't let that fool you into thinking it's not important. It's vital, really, to any story, and we're going to talk about why. The importance, the role that setting plays in a story. But basically the definition that you need to know for setting for the lit terms test is that it is the time and place of the action in a work of fiction, poetry, or drama. It's important to understand the dual function of setting in terms of both the place where a story is set, so things like the physical location. Obviously the story has to take place somewhere physically. The characters need to navigate some sort of physical landscape. That could be, a house, it could be a town, it could be a vast wilderness, who knows. And also the weather can impact certainly the way characters behave. I think we can all agree that the weather over the last few days, what with our quote-unquote blizzard, certainly impacted the way folks have been behaving and created some conflicts here and there. Those snow days may seem fun to students. It certainly creates conflicts for the teacher, but we will make do. So place is certainly important, but again, you want to make sure not to forget the importance of time as well. Where is important, but when is equally important. That could be like the time of day, whether it's morning, noon, or night. It could be the season in which a story is taking place. Whether it's happening in the summer or spring or winter is certainly going to impact the way characters behave. But also the time period. The time period is incredibly important as well because of things like social expectations, but also just for practical reasons. An example would be Greenville Technical College. That's a setting we're all very familiar with, I'm sure. I know you're not there right now, but just imagine that you are, if you can. We're all pretty familiar with that setting, and it certainly has an impact on the way we behave. But something to keep in mind is that if you were at the Greenville Technical College campus 50 years ago, it would not look like this at all. It would be something very different. In fact, maybe you were aware of this, maybe not. Greenville Tech is actually on the site of the former city dump. That's right. If you were at Greenville Technical College's campus 50 years ago, you would actually be sitting on a giant pile of garbage because it was the Greenville city dump. The dump is still there, actually. It's been covered up with dirt and grass and has a school on top of it. But if you were to dig down, the trash is all still down there. Yeah, so a lot of jokes to be made there, I'm sure. But this is just to illustrate the importance of time period. All right, moving on. So what role does setting play? Well, besides the obvious, the story needs to take place somewhere. It can't exist in a vacuum. The characters need to be somewhere because, like we've talked about, stories need to follow a lot of the same laws of space and time that we do. Like, we have to be somewhere. You're somewhere right now. Besides the obvious practical function, it also can act as a real source of conflict for characters, but also a source of motivation. So again, just like in real life, the setting a character is in can provoke certain behaviors in them. It can lead them to act in certain ways that they might not act in a different setting. That's true of people as well. The way you behave at school, for example, is not at all probably the way that you behave at home or at the mall or at church or at the movies or whatever. It provokes certain actions in you, certain behaviors in you, and that's just human nature. But at the same time, setting can also constrain the way characters behave, just like your setting can constrain the way that you behave. So the way you behave in class, for example, is, I'm sure, very different than the way you're behaving right now at home. Maybe you're in your pajamas right now, maybe you're drinking a mug of hot chocolate or whatever, but I have to imagine you're not behaving exactly the same way that you would be if you were sitting in class right now at the desk, staring forward and holding your comments for the moment. So characters are the same way. The setting they're in can provoke them to act in certain ways, but can also limit their range of behaviors. Again, time period can play a role in that too because of certain societal expectations. And so conflict can happen when the environment, the setting forces characters to act, to deal with that conflict, or when they go against the expectations of the setting and maybe kind of resist those constraints. So I'm sure you can think of a couple of stories so far where that's been the case. Hopefully, you're starting to see the big picture of how these different elements work together. They do not exist independently of each other. They all feed into each other. They're all equally important. The plot is important, of course, because things need to happen, actions need to occur, but those actions can't occur without characters taking those actions and having those actions taken upon them. As the focus of our, that we need someone to follow, or a series of people to follow throughout the plot. But those things need to occur somewhere. The characters need to be somewhere, they need to be acting somewhere and some-time, but also the setting can help drive the plot and, again, provoke and constrain the characters to act. So it really is a huge overlap between these elements. So hopefully you're starting to see how they all fit together and how they function together within the realm of the story. So that's it for setting. Told you it'd be pretty quick. There's not a whole lot to say about it, but that's it, and I will see you guys next time.